This train don't carry no gamblers. This train. This train don't carry no gamblers. This train. This train don't carry no gamblers, no whiskey drinkers, and no wine flyers. This train carry no gamblers. This train. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. Don't carry nothing but the righteous and the holy. This train bound for glory. This train. This train don't carry no liars. This train. This train don't carry no liars. This train. This train don't carry no liars, no pocket pickers, and no bar flyers. This train don't carry no liars. This train. This train is built for speed, boy. This train. This train is built for speed now. This train. This train is built for speed. Fastest train you ever did see now. This train built for speed, boy. This train. This train is solid black, boy. This train. This train is solid black, boy. This train. This train is solid black. When you go there, you don't come back, boy. On this train, built for glory. This train. This train, you don't pay no transportation on this train. This train, you don't pay no transportation on this train. This train, you don't pay no transportation, no Jim Crow and no discrimination on this train. Bound for glory, this train. This train, don't care whether you're white or black on this train. This train, don't care whether you're white or black on this train. This train, don't care whether you're white or black. Everybody's treated just alike on this train. Bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory. Don't carry nothing but the righteous and the holy. This train bound for glory. This train. This train. This train. This train.
All right. Welcome everyone to the kickoff event for the Transit Safety and Investment Act campaign. I'm Brian O'Malley. I'm the president of the Central Maryland Transportation Alliance and a member of the Save Maryland Transit Coalition. We're really excited to have so many of you on here today to create momentum for this important bill. So the Transit Safety and Investment Act is something that came up last year. It passed the House, didn't get through the Senate. And so we're back this year with a bigger coalition. And this event today is part of demonstrating that, how much support there is behind this. Over the next hour, our task is to create a sense of momentum. And so having over 100 people on so far, and I think we'll see that number grow, is a great start. But there's more to it. There's things for us to do today. First of all, I just want to tell you a little bit about some of the folks who are on the call. I want to acknowledge, I think there's some acknowledgements going on in the chat, and I want to call out that based on registration, we're expecting Delegate Sandy Bartlett, Delegate Al Carr, Delegate Eric Ebersol, Delegate Jessica Feldmark, Delegate Ann Healy, Delegate Dana Jones, Delegate Ken Carr, Delegate Mark Corman, Senator Clarence Lamb, Delegate Lily Chi, Delegate Pam Queen, MTA CEO and Administrator Kevin Quinn, Delegate John Sheridan, staff to Delegate Ivy John Sheridan, Delegate Jared Solomon, Delegate Jen Tarasa, Senator Mary Washington, and Senator Craig Zucker, and Senator Cory McRae. So thanks very much for registering and for being on with us today. We also have dozens and dozens of advocates and riders who care about this bill. Your role today is going to be to, one, listen carefully to the elected officials who explain why they're supporting this, and to some of the riders and activists who say why they're putting so much time and effort into it. But that's not it. We need to make sure we're creating a sense of momentum and not just preaching to the choir. And so we need to be active on social media, use the hashtag SaveMDTransit. And I think our team will put suggested hashtag and some suggested posts in the chat as we go. And we're going to have some take action opportunities. So we'll have a point in the agenda when we get to that. And then carry that momentum forward over the next couple of weeks, and keep an eye out for take action alerts about submitting testimony and reaching out to your elected officials. We want to begin today with a moment of silence. We're going to keep in our thoughts, carry in our thoughts, Marcus Parks Sr., who was the MTA operator we lost this year, as well as the 6,196 Marylanders who have lost their lives to the COVID pandemic. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to very briefly state that we're here today to create a sense of urgency around passing the Maryland Transit Safety and Investment Act. And I look forward to the speakers sharing with you some of the details. Keep in mind that if you want Maryland to reduce disparities based on race in terms of access to jobs and other opportunities, and in terms of who bears the impacts of pollution, we need to pass this bill now. If you wanted Maryland to do something about the climate crisis, where we know that transportation is the #1 source of climate pollution, we need to pass the Transit Safety and Investment Act now. And if you want households in Maryland to have opportunities to recover economically as we recover from this pandemic, then we need to pass the Transit Safety and Investment Act now. And so the point of today, of course, is to build that sense of urgency and make sure we communicate that to everyone listening, but especially the decision makers in the General Assembly. And so with that, I'm excited to introduce a panel of speakers from our General Assembly. And first off is Delegate Brooke Learman, who is the sponsor of the bill on the House side. Delegate Learman.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian, and great to see everybody here. I wish I could see all of you in one screen, but it's good that I can't because it means there are too many of you. And I wish that we could all be in person, but at least we have this option to be safe and continue to work together and organize. So I'm so grateful that over 100 of you are taking time out today to talk about how we can not just have a sense of momentum, but have real momentum going forward for this bill. And I'm so thrilled to be joined and to be working with Senator Cory McCray, my friend and former Probst colleague, Delegate Mark Corman, and Senator Craig Zucker on this legislation. So thrilled to have them here as well. I just want to say a few things about this bill and why we're here today. We're here because we all recognize that too many people are standing outside in the cold waiting for a bus that either isn't coming or is coming late. And we're here on this Zoom because we know that too many kids are at home waiting for their parents to get home and who have missed the bus because it was at the wrong time, or because the MARC train broke down and they're sitting on the MARC for an hour, or the light rail isn't working. We're here because we all rely on essential workers, and those essential workers rely on MTA. They rely on transit to be able to get to their jobs. We are here because if we want to build a state that's inclusive and that has an economy that benefits everybody, not just those people who have access to a car, but people who don't want to drive, people who can't afford a car, people all over the state, if we want that, if we want employers who have employees who show up to work on time and want jobs that are accessible by everyone, then we have to build an inclusive and reliable transit system for everyone. And in infrastructure, like in life, you get what you pay for. And right now, we are not paying for and not investing in transit that works and is reliable for Maryland. MTA is the 13th largest multimodal transit system in the United States. It has operating in, it operates and maintains $9.5 billion in physical assets and provides services to over 2 million people every year in the state of Maryland. And in 2019, they found in an unconstrained capital needs inventory that in 2019 dollars, they had a need of $5.7 billion over the next 10 years to maintain their assets in a state of good repair and do a few enhancements to keep in line with safety needs and requirements. And that included $1.5 billion in deferred capital maintenance. That's why we have those bus breakdowns and light rail breakdowns. But for the past 6 years, this administration has paid next to nothing to keep up our MTA system. They just haven't invested in the way that they need to. And that's why we have a system where the buses break down more, the light rail fails more, the MARC train stops more than any other system in the country. And if we want to build an economy that works, if we want to build a state that's connected, where folks can reach Annapolis by transit and people can get to the shore and get to Western Maryland and get from between the DC suburbs and Central Maryland and Southern Maryland. If we want those folks and we want to have a connected state, and we have to be able to fund MTA and rely on transit. So I'm so proud to be working with all of the groups who helped organize this. It's been an amazing collaboration. I'm so grateful to all of you for the work that you do. And I'm really, really proud to be working with my good friend, Senator Cory McCray, who's such a leader in the Senate, a leader in Baltimore City, and really a leader around the state. We're working with these. We have phenomenal leaders all over, our residents, businesses. We know that so many people suffer when we don't have adequate transit. So I'm going to turn it over to my cross-file, Senator McCray now. But I just wanted to say thank you, all of you, for being here. From City Councilwoman Sharon Middleton, all of my delegates, all of my friends who are delegates, Delegate Eric Ebersol, Delegate Jessica Feldmark, Delegate Sandy Bagnall, Delegate Ruth, all of you, I'm sorry, I can't see all of you. Delegate Kerr, thank you so much for all of your work. I'm really excited to continue the fight with you to make sure that our residents and our businesses succeed because we've invested in transit. So Senator McCray, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Delegate Lehrman, and just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity to each and every member that's on this coalition call. First, I'd just like to thank each and every member of the Save Maryland Transit Coalition, because it's you that's going to help us to get this across the finish line. This is not going to be done by just one person itself, but it's going to be you getting us across this finish line. I want you all to take the opportunity to realize that this is one of the unique opportunities where we see such a diverse coalition. I see environment and I see labor. I see our businesses and I see our workers. I see our seniors and I see our young people. This does not happen each and every bill that we bring forth, but this is happening at this moment. Just last week, I saw all of our Baltimore region leaders, county executives and mayor. We saw Mayor Scott. We saw Johnny Olszewski from Baltimore County. We saw Calvin Ball from Howard County. We saw Stuart Pittman from Anne Arundel County, but you all did that. You all have been putting the pressure on folks to make sure that we raise this issue, right, to make sure that it's one of the top issues across the state of Maryland, but we need your help. And we need your help because we have a governor that does not understand the importance of our transit in a number of our jurisdictions across the state of Maryland. We saw that when he pushed back on the red line. We saw that when he was beating back operational cuts towards the MTA. But let me be clear, it was you all that mobilized as a coalition to make sure that we can go in the right direction for those operations. We're going to do the same exact thing for the capital needs that we need at this moment across the state of Maryland. But I just want to be clear. I want everyone to know what's at stake. So when we think about our seniors that catch our public transit just to get their prescription drugs, when we think about our mothers and our fathers that are just trying to get healthy food opportunities for their young people in the house or just themselves, when we think about our young people that have to go to school, our public transit, but least and not last, let's think about all those workers that's just trying to catch public transit to get to their job. That's what's at stake, Maryland. And we on this call know that, but we have to make sure that we amplify that message so that each and every one of our friends, our neighbors, our family members know what's at stake so that all of Maryland can thrive and not just some of Maryland can thrive. At this moment, I think that it's very important, as we talked about that diversity within the coalition, and while the leaders were there, we should recognize that on this call, we had my friends from Howard County, with Jessica Feldmark and Delegate Jen Terraza. You have Anne Arundel County with Delegate Bartlett. You had my friend Ken Kerr up there in Frederick. I saw Brooke Harper right there up in the farthest part of Western Maryland. You had my friend Jawanda and my friend Saria from Harford County. And I saw my friends even from Baltimore. I haven't seen Mr. Ralph in a long time, but you know what? I see him on this call. I see Mark Edelson on this call. I see Councilwoman Sharon Green Middleton on this call because we all know the importance. So as I start to close, I just want to make sure that I lift up one more time my friends that I'm actually doing this bill with. I cannot say enough about Delegate Brooke Learman and how she's championed transit of not just this year, but over the years. I look to the right of my screen and I see my colleague, former House of Delegate member, Mark Corman from Appropriations, and know that he is a leader, not just for some parts of Maryland, but for all parts of Maryland. And then I look to my left and I see my friend, my Budget and Tax Committee member, Senator Craig Zucker, and know that each and every one of these individuals, along with our colleagues that are on this call, are doing each and everything that they can to make sure that public transit is a priority in the state of Maryland. But I think that while we recognize everyone that's joined this call, I think that Brooke did the perfect thing in making the ask. And the ask is that for Senate Bill 199 and House Bill 114, that each and every one of you, and I know you all have already done it, reach out to our colleagues. But I need your family members. I need your neighbors. I need everyone to mobilize under this issue to make sure that the General Assembly, all 188 members, feel like it's a thunderstorm under their legs, over top of their heads, and know that this is a priority for all of Maryland's. I would like to say one more time, thank you to our Save Maryland Transit Coalition, and I'm honored and humbled to be able to join this call. Thank you again.
All right, well, I'm State Delegate Mark Corman. I have the parallel subcommittee on budget issues with Senator McRae, and after that barn burner, Senator, I'm going to give all the opening statements at our joint hearings this year. I'm not letting you go first and overshadow me the way you're doing right now. But a big thanks to you for your leadership on this. You know, legislating is a team sport, to be sure. But 3 years ago, when we were working to pass dedicated funding for the DC area metro system that serves the whole state, but certainly disproportionately affects Montgomery and Prince George's County, the Speaker's office told me to go talk to Delegate Learman and think deep transit thoughts to come up with a way we could also pull up Baltimore and the Baltimore area in a positive way with the legislation we were doing for the DC area metro system. And out of that came the capital needs inventory that is really the basis for this bill to make sure that MTA has the funding it needs to meet really its current service levels. This is not just about the future work we have to do. This is making sure we can do what we currently need to do. So thank you, Delegate Learman, for your leadership on that. And I think you can see that this is really a statewide bill because last year her crossfire wasn't Senator McRae, as great as Senator McRae is, but was my colleague, Senator Zucker, who, even though he's from Montgomery County, saw that this was an important issue for the entire state. And why is that? Well, look, I have news for you. If you don't live in Baltimore City or the Baltimore area, that doesn't mean you never ride the MARC train or never go to a baseball game and want to take the light rail or never, visit a kid in school in downtown Baltimore, or go for a business meeting there, or any of the other things that we all do living in the state of Maryland, where our flagship city and urban area relies so heavily on the Maryland Transit Administration. And it is the Maryland Transit Administration. This is not the Baltimore Transit Administration. This is a statewide need and of statewide importance. And just as we all worked together 3 years ago to make sure we could do some of what we needed to do for the Washington area system, we all now need to stand together to do what needs to be done for the Maryland transit system. So really excited to be here. There's a lot more to do. After this, we passed this bill on a bipartisan basis through the House this year. We have to pass it through the Senate now this year, and then we have to keep going. I have a bill with my colleague, Senator Zucker, to electrify the MTA bus fleet. We have Republican colleagues in Western Maryland who want to add commuter rail to Hagerstown. I know we have colleagues in Southern Maryland who want to add rapid transit in that region. We need to figure out a way to pick up where the Baltimore City Red Line left off. God knows we have to finish the Purple Line project in my part of the state. So there's a lot of work left to be done, and I'm excited to work with my colleagues and all of you to make sure that happens. And let me turn it over now to my friend and colleague, Senator Zucker.
Well, thank you very much, Delegate Corman. You know, when Senator McCray was giving that passionate remarks about how important this is, Senator McCray, I just want to let you know my 11-year-old came in and was very excited to see us on Facebook Live and was wondering about the captions on the bottom. And I said that it was closed captioning. So I think it just goes to speak to not only that this is a generational thing in terms of that it's going to capture every generation, but also all the hard work that Brian and your whole team put into making sure this was accessible for people to view online. So thank you for all of your tremendous work. You know, when I think about all the efforts that everybody on this call has been making, and especially those that are sponsoring this legislation, I think of it like how we would approach a pothole in the street. If there's a pothole in the street, we wouldn't say, okay, everybody, let's start digging more, right? We want to fill it and create longevity on the road. And that's the same thing with our transit system is we don't want the problem to keep continuing. We want to fix it, and we want to create a permanent solution. And I believe that from your all leadership and the sponsors of this legislation, quite frankly, even those folks like Councilmember Tom Hucker, who's on from Montgomery County, and U.S. Senator Van Hollen's office I see is here as well. But it is really a statewide One Maryland issue. And I believe that this is the team to help get it done. Everybody that's on this call, and it's going to be an interesting 90 days, but we're going to get a lot of work done, and I believe that this will be one of them. So congratulations to everybody for this. There's a lot more work to be done, but I believe that we'll be successful at the end of the day. Thank you for including me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, delegates and senators, for your leadership and for the energy and effort that you're bringing to this. I think we're all encouraged to hear the passion as you talk about this issue. I want to take a moment before we move to the next item on the agenda to introduce the team that's working on this call. You have chat room moderators, Caro Achar and Eric Norton. You also have tech support from Lindsay Mendelson and Josh Tolkien. You have Kristen Harbison in the chat shouting out legislators and elected officials. And we are fortunate, as Senator Zucker mentioned, to have captioning provided by Kim Goldstein through Maryland Relay. The other thing I want to echo from Senator Zucker's remarks is that there is a Facebook Live broadcast of this. So be sure to check that out. So next up, I'm going to introduce a video, and this is a really poignant video that's put together by the NAACP of Maryland that speaks to the fact that transit is an equity issue. And so our team is gonna cue that up, and I encourage you to make sure the sound is on and that you're able to watch this with us.
Systematic racism shows up in many ways, like pollution in our neighborhoods, options for getting to work, or the impacts of a pandemic. Black Americans are 2.4 times more likely to die from COVID-19 than white Americans. Black Marylanders represent 31% of the population, but 41% of the total COVID-19 deaths. Poor air quality is the largest environmental health risk in the United States. But Black Americans are 79% more likely than whites to live where industrial pollution poses the greatest health danger. Race, even more than class, is the #1 indicator for the placement of toxic facilities in the U.S. Pollution disproportionately affects people of color, leading to poor health outcomes in asthma, cancer, heart, and respiratory diseases. Black children have a 500% higher likelihood of dying of asthma than white children. Many people of color work in essential jobs, exposing them to a greater risk of contracting the virus. For too many, access to safe, low-polluting public transit is lacking. Add to that a lack of access to healthcare and the stresses of being Black in America. It's time to make things right by reducing harmful emissions and investing in clean energy and in clean, safe public transit. Clean air means better health for everyone. Maryland must reverse decades of environmental damage affecting Black communities and other communities of color. Clean air is a right, not a privilege, because climate justice is racial justice. Take action today.
So huge thank you to NAACP of Maryland for sharing that video with us and letting us use it during the event. They are part of this, the Save Maryland Transit Coalition. Now it's my honor and privilege to get to introduce to you two riders who are going to share their stories with us about using public transportation and how it affects their lives. Seifu Chikelu and Ivis Burris are going to speak with us. So I'll turn it over to Seifu first, I think.
Hey, how's it going? So I moved here 6 years ago from Charleston, South Carolina. And the last year of me living in Charleston, South Carolina, I rode public transit to school, and the transit system there was in very bad shape. And when I decided to move here in November of 2014, I was very excited to be a transit rider in a different city that I figured would have a better transit system. And of course, I was very disappointed to see that a lot of the issues that I saw in this city is what I saw in my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina. And I can remember those late nights getting off at work at 3 in the morning at a pizza shop to get home and to know that I wouldn't be able to get on the bus until 6 in the morning at sunrise because there was not an equitable transit system here to make sure that people who work third shifts could get home safely. And so I'm all for transit equity for a number of reasons, but mainly because number one, it is my right as a person who lives and works in this city that I am able to access every crack, nook, and cranny of this city. And that because I'm able to access certain parts and not other parts, it's not fair to me as someone who invests so much time and energy into this city. And secondly, as someone who rode the public transit system before the Baltimore Link, as well as the Baltimore Link system, public transit equity is very important because it allows people to learn the city. When I first moved to this city, I did not have a car and I still don't have a car. And so my way of learning this city was by taking the bus. It was literally getting on the bus, trusting the bus driver to let me off when I needed to be let off, and learning the city that way. And so public transit, and when we talk about public transit and public transit equity, we're not even just talking about buses arriving on time. We're talking about people who get the chance to literally learn the city that they live in. And so because of those reasons, I'm very excited to fight for this legislation. And I do believe in public transit equity, and I believe in transit equity in my lifetime. And so with that, I'd like to pass it over to Ivis Burris.
Good afternoon to everyone. Why should transit be funded? Let me share with you me and my son's experiences, and there are many. Too many times have we both been stranded on transit, waiting for another bus. Too many times to count, waiting on my son to get home from his adult daycare center, only to find out his bus has broken down. I'm reminded one time coming from church, one summer afternoon, I believe we'd only gotten like a block away from the church, only to hear on the radio that a driver was stuck waiting on assistance. My driver went to assist him, and when we got there, only to find out that another wheelchair customer was on board. the lift was broke. So my driver and the other driver actually had to physically pick up this wheelchair-bound individual and take them off the bus. Too many times that I've been on my way to the bus to board the bus and the lift was broke. Also, too, my healthcare aide that's for my son and me, she's been on public transportation where the buses have broken down, and only to have to make a call to me to say that she's going to be late. I was on a bus one time and the bus broke down before reaching my destination. The driver was 8 months pregnant. And she said, and I quote, they're going to come and pick you up, but I'm going to have to sit here and wait. So, and I can think of too many times on the way to the ENT office that had my tracheostomy changed out, only to be met with the bus is going to be late because the bus broke down. So a lot of times I would have to call the NNT doctor or any other doctor and say that I'm going to be there late because the bus broke down. And to my surprise, they weren't surprised. So I am definitely with this bill because just imagine if it was your mom, your dad, and right now we're in a pandemic. Just imagine it was one of your relatives or a friend or a neighbor that needed or depended on public transportation, only to find out they will not be arriving. So if you can join in with me and other people that don't have a voice, that can't see, can't hear, and really depend on this public transportation to get them around the city or get them wherever they need to go. I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. And for my son, thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Ivis and Seifu. I think telling first-person stories helps us connect with, you know, as Ivis said, just imagine that it's you or one of your relatives or one of your loved ones. We can talk about the data about buses breaking down or trains breaking down, but it's very helpful to be in touch with how that affects our lives day to day. So we appreciate you making time to share your story. Moving along, the next item on our agenda is one more video. This one comes from a national organization called Voices for Public Transit, and it's going to explain why this is a critical issue and some of the benefits of fighting for better transit in our communities.
Should you be a voice for public transit? Just watch what happens when public transportation enters the picture. Your community comes to life, and you're able to go to work, get to school, do some errands, see the doctor, catch a show, watch the game. That's because wherever public transportation goes, our community grows, creating jobs all over America, helping local businesses flourish, generating investments in our communities. Voices for public transit are everywhere, speaking up on key issues, raising our concerns on the state and federal level, and making sure our elected officials understand that we need to invest more in public transportation. Because public transportation benefits all of us, even those of us who don't ride it. It increases property values, alleviates congestion, and reduces pollution. Public transportation opens the doors to where you want to work, where you want to live, and how you want to live. Public transportation helps take all of us where we need to go, but it's a two-way street. Public transportation moves us, but we need to keep it moving too, and expanding and improving. Which is why we need your voice. So come on board.
Great. So that was our second video. You heard Senator McCray talk about the breadth and strength of the coalition that's working on this bill. And one key pillar of that is the environmental advocacy community. And so we're going to hear from my colleague Ramon Palencia Calvo with the Maryland League of Conservation Voters about why environmental advocates are saying this is a top priority for them.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you to our senators and delegates that are championing this issue, and to the transit riders for sharing their powerful stories. My name is Ramon Palencia Calvo, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Maryland League of Conservation Voters. Maryland LCV is a statewide nonpartisan organization, and we use political action and education to protect our environment and communities. And we are particularly focused on the intersection of climate and environmental equity. That's why we see this bill as a priority for all of us. We are experiencing a climate crisis, and carbon emissions are causing this crisis. We are all aware of the effects of climate change in Maryland, including extreme weather events, floods, heat waves, and so on. And with more than 3,000 miles of shoreline, our coasts are extremely exposed to sea level rise. And the pollution from carbon emissions not only fuels climate change, but also has a devastating effect on our health, and especially the health of communities of color. Simply stated, transportation is clearly linked to both our climate and the well-being of our communities. But we are running out of time, and we need to act now. Unfortunately, the urgency of this issue was ignored last year. Climate policy was a significant area of failure for the 2020 General Assembly, and transportation got an F in our 2020 environmental scorecard. Many of the bills that did not make the cut last year, like the Transit Safety and Investment Act, would have made Maryland more resilient to climate change impacts and those that are already experiencing. And why is this bill so important for the climate? Well, our transportation sector, mainly consisting of single occupancy vehicles, cars and trucks, is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Maryland, accounting for 40% of total emissions. A well-funded transit system will help reduce the number of cars and trucks on roads and the number of miles traveled by those vehicles, and thereby reduce overall greenhouse gas emissions. This is paramount because we cannot fix our climate problem if we do not address the leading source of greenhouse gas emissions. And the Transit Safety and Investment Act is not only important for the climate. This bill is also important for equity, because public transit is one of the most important factors in supporting families move out of poverty. If we allow our public transit system to fail into continued disrepair, the ability of Marylanders to recover economically now and after the pandemic will be adversely impacted. We cannot advance equity if we do not address access to good paying jobs. Finally, this is also a public health bill. The health impacts of pollution from transportation are widely documented and associated with everything from respiratory disease, such as asthma, to cardiovascular disease and cancer. Reducing pollution from cars and trucks will have a direct impact on health, especially in urban areas and communities located near highways. So a well-funded transit system is essential for our communities, our climate, and our public health. Let's make sure in 2021 is the year of the Transit Safety and Investment Act. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to Brian.
Great, thank you so much, Ramon. Let's make sure that 2021 is the year of the Transit Safety and Investment Act. That's our mantra today. And so that's a great segue to the next part of the agenda, which is how you can take action. So if all we're doing is talking to each other, we haven't accomplished enough. I feel encouraged and enheartened by listening to each of the speakers, but we need to go further by doing some take action steps. And so we've got a great team that's going to work with us on this. What we have laid out for you, and you can see it in steps 1, 2, and 3 on the screen, are some steps you can take. Number 1 is to send a social media post. Use your platform of choice. Say you support transit funding, and use one or both of the hashtags, either hashtag #SaveMDTransit or hashtag #FundMDTransit, or both. Number 2, once you've done that on social media, go to the website savemdtransit.org and use the Take Action tool to send an email and add your name to a petition through the website. It's pretty straightforward. You put in your name and address. It'll tell you who your elected officials are and give you a prepared message that you can edit to your liking. And once you're satisfied, you can click send message, and it'll go to your elected officials. And then step 3 is to share the petition with 3 people you know. As Senator McCray said, he doesn't just need you, he needs your loved ones, your family members. We need to create a groundswell and make sure people are hearing from us. And so share that link to savemdtransit.org with 3 people you know. We're going to play a little music and ask you to do those 3 steps right now. And when you come back, put the names of the elected officials you reached out to in the chat so we can start to see from one another who we've reached out to today. Great. Thank you very much, and have at it.
Ain't nothing in front of me. Can't see nothing coming up behind. Make my way through this darkness. I can't feel nothing but this chain that binds me. Lost track of how far I've gone. How far I've gone, how high I've climbed. On my back's a 60-pound stone. On my shoulder, half mile of line. Come on up for the horizon. Come on up and lay your hands in mine. Come on up for the horizon. Come on up for the horizon tonight. Left the house this morning. Bells are ringing, filled the air. I was swearing the cross of my calling. On wheels of fire, I come rolling downhill. Come on up for the horizon. Come on up, lay your hands in mine. Come on up for the horizon. Come on up for the horizon tonight. La 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 la.
So a couple of again, if you haven't signed it, so if you're not active, again, if you already signed it, don't about that again.
All right, I'm seeing some names added in the chat. Thank you very much for those of you who've done that. Great work, everyone. Lots of emails going out. Don't forget the part about sharing the link with your friends and loved ones. Ask somebody else to make these emails as well. It's easy to just share that web address, www.savemdtransit.org. Great. Then I want to give Senator McCray an opportunity to say some closing remarks, as I see folks are still adding in the chat lots of names. So that's great. Keep that going, even as the senator is saying a few closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for this opportunity. And I can't reiterate it enough. I'm feeling very inspired and enthused as I see the number of people that have been reached out to, and some of the folks that have been contacted by the folks that are on this call. But I think that we would be doing ourselves an injustice if we didn't repeat it one more time. That this is going to take us reaching out to each and every one of our family members. This is going to take each and every one of our neighbors. This is going to take each and one of our friends to make sure that we can get on the same page to move in a direction where we have an equitable transit system and the capital investments that's necessary for our state to be able to thrive, and our young people to be able to thrive, our seniors to be able to get to their prescriptions, our young people to be able to get to their schools, our workers to be able to get to their place of employment, and so much more. This is going to take each and every one of us. I heard it a number of times. There are more than 100 people on this call at this moment. And it is going to take more than thousands of us to make sure that we drive this home for those that need it the most. This is a question in reference of funding, but I know that we have the fortitude and we have the power to do what's right behind those that need it the most. I cannot tell you once again, how thankful I am to be joined by all of my colleagues. I like to lift them up one more time. Delegate Brooke Lehrman, Senator Craig Zucker, Delegate Mark Corman. I say thank you for your leadership, not just for the city of Baltimore or not just for Montgomery County, but for the state of Maryland. And there are a number of my colleagues, as stated, from Howard County, Anne Arundel County, Frederick, Montgomery, Western Maryland, Eastern Shore, that are all behind this issue and are rooting for the team. I think it's important to lift up one more time that we have beat this before. We've seen where the cuts had happened to our operating expenses with the MTA, and it was you all that got us across the finish line. Please do not ever forget the power that each and every one of us have in reference to putting the pressure on those that need to make the right decisions. I cannot say it enough that this is not just an issue for labor. This is just not an issue for our environment. This is just not a civil rights issue, but this is one of the unique issues that bring us together as a coalition to be very diverse, young and old, Black and white, man and woman. And we should never forget that. I say thank you once again for each and every person, whether it's Lindsay, Brian, Eric, and so that helped us to put this together today. I'm gonna go to bed smiling tonight because that we did everything we could today, but there are more days in front of us. And I'd just like to say thank you again.
Thank you so much, Senator. I have to say, I've never had a feeling that our delegates and senators were fighting harder for us. I feel like the momentum for this is building. Our role as the advocates is to make sure that all the elected officials are hearing from us, and that's on social media, through these emails, et cetera. So do those take action steps. As we close out with a fight song for closing music, I want to have a show of enthusiasm on here by everyone who has prepared a handmade sign or made a digital backdrop sign. Turn that on, hold it up so that we can see the signs on the screen. And we're going to let the Maryland band take us out with a fight song. Great. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, everyone. Let's go. All right, we did it. Thanks, everyone. Keep an eye out for action alerts in the coming days and weeks.
Thank you. Great job. Great to see everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.